Good morning, good evening, good night. Welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute. Hope you're doing well, citizens. How you doing, Algared?
Live.
Yeah. It's been a week.
It's a week of weeks, hasn't it been?
Through the run. Through the run. Wow. Where do we start? Yeah. I think we'll just let chat dictate where this one goes today. So, yeah.
We're both in recovery mode, believe it or not.
Pretty much. I haven't even been home out of what do you call it? Checkout or what do they do when they call
Discharge.
it? Discharge. I haven't even been discharged 12 hours at this point, so yeah. It's been a rough week to say the least. But
I've been out a few days now, but again I was sent to hospital from last Saturday till I had an incident where they said, that doesn't look good. You're going to hospital until you see a cardiologist. So
yeah, and
see what Execute's done to me.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. That's what I need. Execute me, bus. After I've just been there. Right. No, I kind of had a problem that I put off for about 2 weeks in my usual affair, and it basically I hope it was going to get better, and it ended up just getting worse. And so I was dreading going because I knew I was going to have to go. And if you're here in Australia, I don't know what it's like for you up there, but down here the wait is, I think the last time I went was 12 hours, which was like 2 years ago, and it was 10 hours this time. And it's just not a pleasant experience sitting there. Because of my bipolar, I just go kind of a bit nuts doing nothing.
Due to the fact that mine was heart related, it was very quick. So
yeah, because you're for the for the 12 hours. Sorry, I just thought the way I visualized it, I was just out for the whole thing, the whole wait.
Yeah, I can, but I've got a special skill. My family always says, they envy my special skill. I can fall asleep anywhere, anytime, anyhow. It's great.
Yeah.
Planes, trains, automobiles, man, I'm out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it certainly was interesting. But the frustrating thing is I've got tests I've got to book up and get done before I see the specialist again, and it's like, yeah, come and see me in 4 to 6 weeks. No, I can't even. Earliest I can get in is like 10 weeks to see the specialist.
Yeah. So it was
all the other tests.
So really, it was just weird timing on our both our behalves. And I think as I was in the waiting room, you were talking about getting out as well. So like it was almost like a tag team switcheroo type of thing. So yeah. But yeah. Mine. I've got to go to the chemist after because just as we speak, it's like 5 a.m. here. So I'll have to go to the chemist in a couple of hours after this is over and keep pumping myself full of antibiotics for the next 10 days. And I literally was just on a drip for the last 3 days, just heavy antibiotics and stuff. But yeah, I'll be right. I'm just a bit drained and scatterbrained.
Yep.
So today will be a slow one. If you guys, and as you guys, I'm sure people in chat are.
Yeah, we're putting in a place of being happy and well and all the rest of it. Nah.
I was gonna put it in the Australian term of don't give a shit, but they give a shit. But I mean, as in like they understand, and what I mean by that is they don't give a shit if we do it slow because we are under the weather, so to speak. So yeah, that's what I meant in that kind of phrase. And I realized as I was thinking that process, if I said don't give a shit, they would think that we thought they don't give a shit about us, but that's not what I meant. Yeah,
no.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
You're using the Australian thing.
Yeah.
They're okay with, people are okay with taking it easy because they know what's going on.
Hence the over-explained bad vernacular usage. Oh my god.
We'll put it down to we're sick.
Yeah. So yeah, just roll with the punches, please. Right.
Or recovering.
All right. Bot is started. I'm gonna do a test on Twitch and see if that one comes through. Question. All right, cool. We got no questions, Ag. We can end right here. We are done.
Well, we said
Uh,
it was going to be a slow one, but gee, we didn't think it was going to be that
mm.
slow.
Do you want to do ISC here, or do you still want to do it separately?
I still think we should do ISC as a separate standalone. We'll just do it,
We'll do it later on
details
today
with
then,
them.
or something. Yeah. Okay.
So we'll do it. We'll either do it today, sometime today, and then get it out.
Okay.
Although, if we don't get any questions from you guys, it may
Yeah,
result.
we can go back to bed and recover. That'd be great. No, that's fine. But yeah. So get your questions in, and we'll get into those pretty quickly. Yeah. One thing I did want to talk about, Agrid, that you and I went over really briefly was the.
I have heard.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I have heard that apparently leaks have found information or reference to a medical URSA in the files.
Oh, so this is fresh. This is obviously why because you woke up a couple hours before me this morning, yeah.
So yeah, well, I get up at 4. But this was again, I was in game yesterday, and that was one of the conversations that came up. They were talking about the medical URSA, and I made the comment. I said,
there's also I'm just going to check. There's also references to the Neuro Pulse as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I knew about that one
Yeah.
because we talked about that.
Yeah.
But they were talking about a medical URSA, and I said, well, I don't think CIG have actually said that at the moment, but I know that there are several of us live in hope and think that would be the ideal. And the comment was, oh, leaks actually have found reference to the medical URSA in the files. I never check leaks because that's just me. I've never really been one for that.
Well,
X is usually the source for the leak stuff.
So let's I'm not gonna pick on Mr. Well, actually, I'm gonna pick on Mr. Tomato a little bit. So and then I had a thought, right? So this just kind of shows you how some of these things kick off when we talk about stuff. So let's go to the browser. So we're gonna go onto Mr. X over here, or Twitter, and I'm gonna go to Space Tomato. He had a post here, and I did message him.
Yep.
He hasn't got back to me yet because he's been busy. Look at him, so cute. And God, man, how many posts does he do a day? He posts a lot more on Twitter. So this one, Algared. So rumors are maybe named the Raptor. I'm still hoping Tumbrel, but Drake makes the most sense from the name. Who do you think the manufacturer is, right? So and he obviously posts this. And I'm gonna go through the stuff that I sent to you while I was in hospital. Where is it? So someone went through this that was posted on Twitter by the actual Star Citizen account. And so this is taking all the frames and combining them together, and you actually get, that's not a terrible picture really when it's all combined like that, in my personal opinion. And then the last part that I brought to Algared was also this as well, was the sneak peek. And I said to Algared, I said, what if this is that bike, but from an extreme angle? So taking on the shots that we knew of the Santokii, was it the Santokii and the Sulian? Some of those that they showed off were from really weird angles, like that you would not expect. Like, you know, we've had people say that they think this is a tire and a whole bunch of stuff like that. And what I ended up coming back to Algared with, and so tinfoil hat theory time. And I showed this to a few people yesterday, so we're gonna do it again. It was if I can find the same image, there we go, bladed here. So what I found, this is what I was kind of thinking, because you never saw an image of what I was actually talking about, is something like this, but in bike form, right? So what I'm actually expecting, so I'm connecting some dots here, right? So this is just an idea. So this is like my tinfoil hat theory, right? So just go with me, and if you think it's ridiculous, it's fucking ridiculous at the end, right? So so I think the bike might be a little bit like this, but instead of these being blades, I think they'd be like the Zion engines off like the Fury or the Razor or something like that. So imagine like that, but with the ball in the middle. So if you go back to the actual bike, we've only ever seen this. If you actually look at the images, it's always been side on. We've never ever seen it from the front. I think it's to kind of hide the fact that it goes sideways. I think it's like two circular discs on either side of the, and that's what that this possible image is here. I think this might be the bike, and that's the side of it, so to speak.
I will reserve judgment. I'll put it down to you might be under the influence of drugs, but
yeah, totally.
but well, anything's possible. I can remember though the pamphlet from CitizenCon, and which had the new bike coming, and there was that torn off section with a bit of it that looked like that image, and what was it? It was a Mirai. And I remember you bringing that to my attention. So I don't know why people, for me, how can people, I can see why people, and I said to you from that last image you'd shown of it, that I could see why people thought it or gave it Drake vibes, because it kind of, some of the language to me kind of looked a bit Dragonfly.
Yeah.
But Drake don't need another bike. They've got a bike. They've got a two-seater bike.
The other thing that
if it's a bike, I would expect it to be from a manufacturer that doesn't yet have one.
Yeah. The other thing is you'll notice is there's two. It's the only one that has
Variant.
two of it in the entire silhouette of images all the way along, right? And I think that means that that much like the the Fury and the Fury MX, I think that's what it is. I think it is two variants. And
certainly that image is the second. That image they've given in those lights is certainly the second one in the yellow curtain. So.
And if Mr. Tomato is onto something with the name Raptor, I think it might be something like one of them, like the racing variant's probably the default or something like that, and it's called the Pulse. And I think the second one, the combat one, and the reason why I think it's combat is if you had essentially those two discs or two balls either side, it'd have an advantage to going sideways and kind of strafing around the target, I would assume, right? And that would lend itself really well to staying on a target and strafing left and right. So that would be good to shoot at something. So I think that's possibly, I don't know. Again, if you look at the Fury and the Fury MX, it kind of was like a combat. Well, I know it was a missile variant, but you get my point, right? It's kind of like a racing and combat variant, and that's what I'd kind of expect from Mirai, unless you think anything different.
And when you look at Mirai, one of the things that the CIG have said is that Mirai give them a chance to, as they're breaking, there was a question about what's happening to all the Xi'an tech. MISC is supposed to be this company that have leveraged all this Xi'an tech. And going Mirai is where we're going to see a lot more of that Xi'an tech type stuff coming through. So there is an element where a type of imagery in your mind that you've got of Xi'an tech and the Xi'an gravity balls or hover balls or whatever being applied makes sense for a Mirai vehicle. But I still think you're coming from Crazy Town. But hey, I could be wrong, and you could be right.
And it could absolutely be Crazy Town. What I'm kind of thinking it is, right, is this part here.
Yep.
Right there. The camera, imagine the camera's like here looking at this back part here. Is kind of this part here. That's what I'm thinking. This is the kind of the back of the bike, and that's the thruster.
Look, could very well be.
Yeah, you got no way to tell. That is me totally, as Algared said, like sipping on the Kool-Aid, copium, whatever. But I've got just a sneaking suspicion they are the same thing. And
look, I've got no doubt they're probably the same thing, but how that image has come, because as you said to me, they do weird angles from those sneak peeks.
They do.
Weird angles and weird ship, and they zoom in really close, and then they twist it 180 degrees. It
could also be the other side of the bike and upside down. There's just no way to tell. It could not be the bike at all. That's the other thing. But the other thing is,
it could be a handlebar. Someone said in chat.
The other thing is usually they the other thing is they usually do tease the same thing, so that's why I also think it's the same thing. I don't think they're two separate things. I think they are the same thing.
And I think if you think about it, we've actually had that tease quite a lot. The first tease was at CitizenCon with the magazine.
Yeah.
Second tease was the notes that said they've got two variants of A ship coming in. or a new vehicle coming in. We've got the curtain, which has got two variants of the same vehicle. We've got, so to me, it just seems like we've got this constant teasing of this bike or this whatever it is. So I tend to think that the two things that are coming are the variants of that bike. One a racing variant and one a combat variant. And both of them will leverage a lot more of that Xi'an tech, which means better power, better grav, better.
Last thing that's not related to this though, did you happen to see this other little thing they dropped?
You mean the animal one?
Yeah, did you see that one?
Yeah, that was
this one.
I think is
Oh, the sound.
Yes, even raw.
And I can't. So as a Tasmanian, I really can't get over. Like that's so much like a Tasmanian tiger. It's kind of cool.
Certainly the stripes on it. Yes.
Yeah, and that is just a pelican, a skinless pelican. But okay, it's kind of like a pterodactyl pelican. Not that they're not cool. They're just different, I guess.
Yep.
I don't know. They're just a little bit too.
So which one? So the one that looks like the predator is actually the prey. And the bird,
possibly.
and the bird that's the attack object. Yeah.
The other thing I'll put out there, Agard. Now you know this planet as well as I do, but I'm pretty sure that that's on Hurston. Or am I?
It does look Hurstonish to me.
Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. Interesting. I don't know how I feel about that's at the moment, but it's
how the Hurston. Oh, in Hurston we do have. That's where we've got a lot of the little bugs and critters at the moment. So I suppose I think it's from memory. I don't usually go venturing into caves these days. But yeah, I think it'd be nice. Although I would have liked to have seen the floating hydrogen gas bomby things or the rubbish appearing in Hurston. Even though they're an invasive species.
And then I also got an email to say the last part of Overdrive is kicked off. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
Well, not the last drive, the second part of Overdrive.
I shouldn't say that. I should say the last. I should say the next is what I should say. So, this is what are we up to? God, I don't even know what the next part is. Incoming.
We're in part 2 at the moment.
No, 3. We're on part 3.
Oh, 3 now. Okay.
Oh, okay. They haven't put it up yet, but I had an email saying part 3. So
okay, so 3 starting next week.
Yeah. Oh, they haven't updated it yet then. All right.
So 2's at the moment. That's kill 3 targets. I haven't done that yet.
I've already got it done.
But yeah, so that'll probably be easier than. Well, I'm theorizing that part 2 will be easier than part 1.
They're saying in chat 3 went live a little earlier. So yeah, I did. I got an email to say it's live. So I'm pretty sure part 3 is live. But I thought they would have had it up on the website. But
yeah, someone just saying they did part 3.
Can you let us know in chat? Than the second one? Well, I know it's another space battle. I'm pretty sure it's some kind of space battle. So oh, there we go. Here it is, part 3. Overdrive Initiative Xeno Threat Incursion. The good news, recovered decryption keys worked, and we have 2 eyes on Xeno Threat immediate plans. The bad news is they've involved localized attacks around the system. Get the drop on attackers and take them out before they can do any real harm. Open your main okay. I'm assuming it's take out a hammerhead, that like just from the image, but
yeah. Well, part 2 is take out leaders.
Yeah.
3 leaders, and get their encryption keys.
That was annoying. Like the last one I had to redo it twice because the encryption key spawned inside the hammerhead and we couldn't find it or get it out. So we had to go back and like redo it, and it was a pain in the butt. Yeah. Like multiple hammerheads. Oh, okay.
I've only completed part 1 at the moment.
It's not that difficult. Essentially, from what I've seen from the context that we were given from CIG, they said around 6 hours in total for all of them. And again, if you're divvying that up over what is it, 5 weeks, that's a little bit under an hour. Well, that 45 minutes a week type of thing. So it's not too bad.
I found that part 1 took us took us a while just because you had to travel. A lot of that was just spent traveling
Yes.
to the outposts and then going in and doing the same thing, but with.
I can recommend the Redeemer though. The Redeemer's been good for all the ones I've done because it's just allowed you to do it as a couple of people together. And when I did the second part in a bigger group, we actually had 2 Redeemers and then someone left, and we went down to, I think we split up, ended up going down to like an F8 and a Redeemer at the end as well. So, but yeah, those, ironically, the ships they recommend actually do work fairly well. So yeah, but the Redeemer was good because it allowed some person to cover why the other person gets out and things like that. So
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's have a look at some questions now.
Yeah, we've got about 5 now.
Oh, okay, 5. God, this is gonna be quick. Right, I'll let you take the first one out.
Okay, so Warring Pro says, have you looked at what ships may fit aboard the Javelin lately? No, I haven't. The Zeus Mark II looks to be the largest ship in terms of height, length, and width.
Really?
Now
that would seem
originally
too big to me because it was the Redeemer, yeah?
Yep, it was originally built for a Redeemer, and then they put out whatever ships the Hangar could support, which was either 1 Hornet, 1 Gladiator, 1 whatever. I think it could take 2 Arrows, 3 Auroras, or 4 P-72s or something like that at the time, or P-52s at the time.
Right, so
but then the list of ships they had was significantly shrunk because that was all that was available. But,
so this is the Reddit post that I grabbed way back when someone ripped the metrics out of the game and basically said these are the hangar sizes. And I think we can also clearly state now with the redoing of the hangars, there's been a bit of a rejig. So this is going to be shady at best. Let's just put it that way. But let's have a quick look at the Redeemer and we'll go off that then. So let's just do the old what is the length of the Redeemer citizen? And we've got a length of 23 beam. Wait, that's beam. That's not.
We've got all of them there.
Is beam the length? I think beam's the length. I could be wrong.
Beam is the width.
Beam is the width. Okay. Just open it.
Just go to the matrix and type in Redeemer.
I might just do it this way. Hang on.
We'll go into the wiki and have a look.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, but it's not there anymore. Oh wait, here we go. Beam length 37.5. So if we go back to our little image here, 37. Looking on the Y, so that would mean that it is an S3. Okay, that actually is a Zeus. Wow. Yeah. Okay, that's kind of significant in size, Algared. That essentially means that the Kraken, the 2 pads on the Kraken, you're essentially getting one of those in a Javelin. That's not too shady. If they build it to metrics. And
the height will be different as well. My understanding was the original hangar for the Kraken was actually bespoke, was actually built specifically for, but they said you could put the smaller ships in there. Because that was at the time they were not wanting every ship to be a carrier for every ship.
Yeah.
And so people was, we'll be able to put 5 Hornets in there, and they said no, it's either that or one of these, and then 2 Arrows and 3 Auroras, or that's my memory. I could be totally wrong.
So Waring's saying that the Redeemer has become too tall. I'm assuming he's saying it's become too tall to fit inside the Javelin, but I would find that bizarre.
I always thought the Javelin hang was very deep.
It was built. I remember it being.
Like it was cavernous.
Yeah,
my memory.
Yeah,
and it was built.
It was like an elevator, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was built with the view of the
so let's
Redeemer in mind. So
let's
I find that I don't find that argument holds. You know, maybe when they changed the metrics or redid the, you know,
they're on par though, size
actually
wise.
built it, it may have worked, but the Zeus does look smaller than a Redeemer there.
Yeah, it kind of does. Let's have a look at it from a couple of different angles. So above, that's okay. So that
About the same length,
that is
give or take.
I would say the Marky Mark takes the cake on the width front. Length though, the Redeemer still is
Even better,
ahead.
and height wise, I don't think should be an issue because I think the Redeemer 14 or 15.
Yeah, so you're almost looking at double
So yeah, maybe
maybe he does have merit. Maybe it doesn't. You know, maybe it's too high now. But again, the Javelin is not a ship that we've had. Oh, I just realized we've been doing all that and I haven't had it on the right screen. So nobody's seen what we were talking about. Hang on, I'll do it again real quick. So yeah, you're looking at about twice the height. And then if I go back to above, so there you can see the it's definitely wider, but not longer. Yeah, that's interesting. Because the interesting thing, as soon as you chuck the Zeus out there, you're also got the Cutlass, and you've also got the potentially the Spirit, which is kind of scary because that thing's big. What else is there? The Freelancer would be up in there as well. But I think the Freelancer's even longer again. But that's kind of interesting to think that that's quite a cavernous internal hangar.
Yep.
And I'm just trying to think, like F8s would fit in there as well. You'd be able to put eclipses in there as well. I'm actually starting to think now, like, what is the best ship to put in your Javelin? But the kind of cool thing there, Algared, is obviously you combo that in with not just what the ship is able to do, but we don't know enough of those modular rooms. It's definitely going to give you a lot of versatility. Like, and I'm just
yeah. Well, that's right. That's one of the big selling points of the Javelin, and they even said some enterprising entrepreneurs use it for other stuff as well. So 200 Javelins were originally sold, and scroll down to the bottom. The type of ships they originally said you could fit in besides, what do they say about the hangar? The Javelin's bottom deck includes 6 dedicated rooms, blah, blah, blah. The Javelin's main hangar is also located in this area with smaller, while smaller than a dedicated carrier's hangar, the Javelin can still accommodate a limited number of individual craft. The hangar is primarily designed to deploy a single Aegis Redeemer gunship with a crew of Marines for boarding operations.
Yeah, I'm just checking that. I'm just checking that on the Algared to kind of show you some scary prospects.
Yeah,
because that is technically medium. That's an entire Valkyrie. Yep. So you.
And so the other ships at the time they said you could put in was either one Gladius or one Hornet or one Avenger or one Gladiator or one 300 series or 2 M50s or 2 Auroras, one Cutlass, one Mustang or 4 Merlin. Yeah. So they were, even then they were saying, you know, it's not just everything fits. It's a certain thing.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. The one thing that I'd go to. So without us having the ship and actually being able to go and put stuff in it ourselves, I think that's the thing. You kind of hit the nail on the head. You really, the way I'd look at it, Algared, is it's a little bit like the Carrack. It's more based on shape than metrics, isn't it? So it's really going to come down to once we get our hands on it. Type thing.
But I think you look at the ships that are the same size as the Redeemer, and I think you could say yes, one of those will fit.
Yeah,
because of the way they were originally.
Yeah, I think like if you take the Redeemer, I start to think that you're more like, I don't know. I'm gonna pull it up just to play devil's advocate before I put my foot in my mouth. But my brain goes to the Freelancer because it's more length. Now I could be completely wrong here, but and the reason I again, see, I think that So look, you know what I mean? Like they are on par shape language wise, if you get my drift, because of the length. It's a more of a long ship.
You could support a Cutlass. You could support a Redeemer.
Sorry, say again, Agrid, you kind of cut out there.
If I was saying it could support a Cutlass, like basically every ship was available at that time, every smaller ship. I think the Freelancer was the only one they didn't mention, and that's the same size as a Cutlass. So I think a single Freelancer would have been able to be supported back into the
Again, look here, Agrid. You tell me how that doesn't kind of fit. You know,
like I'm saying, I'm not disagreeing.
No. I know you're not. I just don't know if you saw it or not. That's all.
Yeah, I did see it. I think looking back or looking forward to what the role of the ship that was in the Javelin was supposed to be able to do. It was a redeemer with a squad of Marines for boarding operations.
Yep.
We only really have one boarding ship. That's the ship I would expect to be able to fit. It's going to be a ship that has those specific boarding capabilities.
Actually, the other one I just thought of, Agrid, hang on, just give me 2 secs. The only other one, and you'll go, of course, as soon as I put it in, is the Prowler.
Yep. Yeah, well, actually, we've got 2 boarding ships because the Prowler was used by the Tavaran to sneak people onto ships.
So again, this falls into Marky Mark Witness width territory there. So
in terms of length, it's well within. The height might be an issue, but I don't think that again would be a concern.
Let's just double check that then. Yeah, okay. So the height would be its biggest concern. You are correct.
Maybe an issue.
Yep. No, you're right. It would be the major concern for that one. So, yeah.
And is it the Liberator that's the boarding ship?
The Liberator's it's a drop ship. So boarding and drop ships.
You know the one with the boarding clamp, that one.
Oh, you're talking about the Legionnaire. That would definitely fit. The Legionnaire is the largest small. It's now taken over from the Freelancer's technically a medium as well. Or it's the largest.
So I expect that's the ship that we'll see being ideally paired with a Javelin.
That makes a lot of sense.
If you're looking at a squad of Marines who can board a vehicle, board another spaceship, that's the only ship that we've got so far that is actually designed with that clamp to enable boarding.
Ironically, I keep coming back to the Redeemer for one simple reason. It's an Aegis ship. Oh. Javelin, Aegis. Like like manufacturers tend to self-serve, do they not? So yeah, I think it's at the end of the day, it is going to be the Redeemer. We know the Redeemer's been around since way back when, 2014 Algared. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Redeemer in Squadron in some shape or form. So yeah. Right, you want to go on to the next question? I think that's well and truly detailed out. I hope that answered that for you. I believe that was War and Pro. Right, you want to go to the next one, Algared, or?
Just give me one more tick. Oh, that's an ambush ship.
Yep.
Okay, so the next question, I'll just give that a tick while I remember. So the next question is from Nova42. So, do we have all levels of medical vehicles concepted? Medical Ursa, tiny C8R, small Cuddy Red, medium Apollo, large Galaxy, Cap, Endeavour, Hope. I would say yes, based on that.
Yeah.
Especially if the leaks information is accurate, which is great because that's something that you, me, and Paul have speculated on for ages. Although
it'd be at least a year or more now at this point. I remember.
Although I'm disappointed that they're saying it's a medical Ursa, not a medical Lynx. But yeah, hey.
Well, you.
And they're much the same, but.
Really, it's just a texture change and an internal change. Yeah. So really, it's probably, let's be honest, it's probably the same as the Lynx, but with an Ursa texture on it. And I have no doubt at some point the Ursa would be updated, as so to speak. But yeah, you get my point. But yeah, I've got no problem with it being like that. And let's just be honest, we're not surprised by this. Well, how long have we've been talking about since the Galaxy drop? That's essentially as soon as
since the Galaxy and the Ursa drop, or the Lynx's drop, we've been saying
all three
medical Ursa or medical Lynx, and we even looked at the Lynx and said, hey, just because of the way it kind of flares out, that we were seeing that.
I think,
and especially after the C8R as well. Like the C8R was like, yep,
I think the surprises
You can do
were
it in a day. You can do it in a.
the surprises will really come in, and is the functionality. Like, does it have a drone, or is it just as simple as a bed? Is it, how do you get people into it? Is it like the Pisces, and it's just like full walk on, or or can you actually, is there some kind of recovery system for people there, as in to get them back onto it?
Do a wheel on a trolley or something like that.
Yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah.
and I think that's the question, isn't it?
Mm.
I would say that like I would imagine that I couldn't see an Ursa having more functionality than a Cerdar because it's a smaller vessel.
I think the only thing
I would expect it to be the same.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if it's got something like a scanner or searchlight instead of the actual gunny turret type of thing, or something like that, or does the turret just completely disappear? So they're all small things that my questions have, but like, man, to say we weren't expecting would be an understatement.
Yeah,
But, like,
and I think that really does give us the whole spectrum. We've got the medical transport, so we'd have the Ursa, the Cerdar, and the Cuddies being the ambulances.
Nova can correct me if he's kind of wrong here, but I think what he's trying to apply is it really the first gameplay we have something in every slot, and I think
it's that we'll have every ship at least concept that's not necessarily in.
I think the only and I think the only other one that I would say is mining, because you've got the rock and all those as well. So they are both essentially in the same boat now. They have one in every slot. I think the only thing you could probably say is mining pipped it at the post last AIE because the Arastra dropped. But yeah, it's much of a muchness, but it is good to see that we're getting some, I guess.
But the Arastra was more pushing more towards the.
That's not what you're missing the point. So essentially, I think the point of the question is it the first gameplay to have something in every single slot?
No, I was getting that, but I think the Arastra is actually building on mining and going into the next gameplay loop of more the refinery.
But it's still a miner.
Yeah, but so, it's moving, starting to shift and widen that.
We're getting into semantics, Agrid. You're going into the weeds, bro. I
think we're just not hearing what I'm saying, and
I do hear. I do hear. Yeah. So you're saying that it's going in refining and mining, and I'm trying to say that
widening it out.
Yeah. Again, if you look at Nova's question, he's essentially asking.
Yeah, I get what he's saying. I get that. He's saying complete gameplay loop, and I'm saying yep. And mining kind of has that, and it's even now broadening, which again just expresses that point more. But yeah. Anyway, next question.
Yep.
All right. So Gary Gen X says for Star Citizen Advocacy, not a lot of info on this subject. How's it going to work on speculation, or how a player goes to them?
I think you'd find it would be just like any other faction in the game, and their kind of faction is lawful. So it'd be, I think you'd probably start around bounty hunting or things like that in the Stanton system, and not just in Stanton, in other systems as well, eventually.
Yeah. Your guess is as good as ours. It's law-abiding peoples. It's the UEE's police force, and is one way of looking at it. But yeah, beyond that, how can we join it? Can we join it? Yeah. Next.
Yep.
Skubek says, do you think that there will be any gameplay with animals for the Endeavour in the future?
Ooh, Endeavour.
Put them in the park.
I would say probably more under the science research, because there's a scientific and a general research pod. I would find that's probably where it is, and you're probably looking at samples of some description to that point.
Now, if you can capture animals, I can see people putting predators in rooms of ships, so when they're boarded, people open a door and get attacked by like a Klingon ship.
Yeah, I think we don't know enough about animals to fully know where they're going to go. I just know every independent kind of animal you have, it's like an NPC, so it's taxing things on the server. So you're more like to get bespoke singular creatures than like big herds of animals and things like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, again, as Agrid said, the biopods could go into farming and not just plants, but animals and agriculture eventually. And agriculture is fairly hit. Like plants are far more likely than animals because there's no AI required because they're just sitting there. But
Yeah.
they've talked about big game hunting and things like that. So again, that more of those one-off creatures than big herds of animals. But we know that you can collect things from animals. Like again, they leave something that doesn't have an AI behind them, so like eggs or whatever. Yeah, that leads in agriculture as well. So looking at those cows that have the eggs, that's obviously their eggs as a byproduct. So yeah, it's again, we just don't have enough information to know where they're going to go into, but I think at some point we can safely say they're going to be some form of resource. It's just
Yeah.
can we breed them? Can we essentially farm them? Like domesticate them. That's the word I'm looking for. But yeah, we just don't know at this stage because it's something they've never talked about, but it's heavily hinted at.
Yeah.
And especially once you get your own bases and stuff like that, like it's not a hop, skip, and a jump to say I've got a farm and I've got some animals and stuff like that. But again, it's just something they've never officially talked about. But um, you've got to see it from some point of view because it's heavy. Like again, the biopods are on the Endeavor, but we don't have the 3 other farming ships, and you look at almost any MMO, you can get resources from every creature you can kill, so you go through that and you just add that up. That's almost like the other half of the tree, so to speak. So you've got mining and salvage, but again, where did they come from? And then you look at medical, a lot of stuff, even in today's medical scene, they come from animals. They don't just come out of the earth, so to speak. They
Yeah.
come from trees and plants and all that type of things as well. So there's a whole another side there with the trees and animals we've yet to see.
Yeah, look, I think the animals coming and the resource we'll get from them actually will make sense of those, some of those outposts where they've got, leather or cloth being used for sale for the windmills rather than metal. And
Yep.
where are they getting that stuff from?
Yeah, clothing's another big one, and
So
and cooking as well.
yeah.
Mm.
So it just adds to the gameplay loop. So you gather your meat from your vehicle, your animals, and then you bring it to, say, your 890 Jump, which has got a restaurant. So they're now serving exotic animals as part of their food. If it's not prepared right, it kills you. Anyone for blowfish? Yeah.
Oh yeah, Homer Simpson. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Next one.
Arcandera says, or Acand GR, whatever.
Arcane Edge, Arcane Danger, or Arcane Edger, either or.
Yep. So either of those. The new dog creature's horn is used to help bones to knit. Are there any news on how that will happen in gameplay? Well, if you've heard that about it, then that's a bonus for you.
I think you'll find that almost every creature will have something that it lends itself towards.
Yeah.
So you'll have one creature that's just really good medical applications, another creature is, and again, that's one of the advantages of the game. Anytime they want to create something, it's a new creature is found through exploration. Then that what is the data,
Yeah.
and then find a part of the research tree. Again, you can see it in the Endeavor. The science part will be figuring out what it is used for, or is it good for,
I can imagine there'll also be situations where, a predator from Hurston, there'll be players who are trying to smuggle it to Microtech or ArtCorp just for, hey, we can screw up the economy, we can screw up the environment, because that's what humans do.
Or it's an aphrodisiac for Old Man Hurston and his zoo girls. Yeah, I totally get
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Yeah, it's a vital ingredient of the Evercrack drink. Yes.
Yes. All right. Hey, Admiral. Nice to see you. Admiral Kasani says, question, how many different species of animals would you expect of a habitable SC planet? God, that's a lot. Yeah, like realistically, you look at Earth and trying to emulate Earth is going to be a task on a planetary level. I think we can safely assume it's going to be more of a representation. Again, you have entity limits. You have server kind of, well, again, look at how the NPCs work right now because we don't have server meshing. Yeah, so it is going to be interesting to see how well they pull it off because we are also dealing with some really big player spaces. But yeah, again, it's probably one of the things I'm more interested about because of the challenge of it, like how they're going to pull it off. But again, I don't think you're going to see like massive herds of things. And again, even if you look at the ones that they talked about, you often saw a bird on its own. You never saw like a flock of seagulls and moving in that herd mentality. But it would be kind of cool to see in the future if they had herd mentality AI as a thing. So it's really one AI, but it moves like a herd. If they could pull that off, that would definitely help them get the numbers up, so to speak. So, you could have 200 birds that are roughly following, the same path, but they're, you've got those little outliers on the edges and stuff
So you
like
got the
that.
swallow clouds,
Yeah,
or
yeah, or a pool of fish or something like that. But it's really one AI that's roughly for, and you can have ones die off as they're eaten by predators or things like that. That would be a way to bring down the network congestion. But then you're more smarter, like that space crab thing we saw like that. So you're going out and actually interacting that with it as a player, as opposed to if you're interacting with a spool of fish, you're really just going to chuck your net in
and
and
have kind of those characteristics
well, the
that
interact.
the have.
Hang on, just let me finish. The interactions are going to be different levels, so you're going to have that more of a combat stance, and there's a standoff, and there's a time period there and an investment, right? So that you've got to make the AI worth the investment. Where if it's a spool of fish, it's going to be a real quick interaction of just grab and go. So
yeah. So the AI we're interacting with, they'll have kind of the same type of thing as the PCs have, or the NPCs have, where they'll have the the characteristics of how they react under certain situations, whether aggressive or
exactly,
or whatever. So
but you don't.
that makes perfect sense. So
you don't tend to see many games that have that herd mentality AI. I'm trying to think of a game where I've seen it in recent memory. It's been quite a while since I've seen anything like that, and they tend to be more faked, like they're almost like AI on a path or something like that. They're not really they're kind of a bit dumbed down. But again, when you're when they showed those birds flying around, I think they called them birds or bards. I hadn't heard that term before. Where they're really just flying around and doing things. Again, that would lend themselves to a pool of fish or a flock of seagulls or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see in time, I guess.
Yep. Inquisitor Hate had a question about CCUs. They said, with talk of 1.0 coming, new Warbond CCUs being less valuable than in the past, and an increase in frequency of existing ship price increases, should we consider locking in our CCU chains?
I would hold off until such time as that is confirmed.
And my thought is, if you've got a CCU chain already in your hangar, it's locked in.
You don't need to move it around.
You don't need to apply it. It's still it's still valid. If you've got if you've got a CCU that goes to a Hornet and the Hornet goes up $50, that CCU a Hornet still works. So
So you're essentially because there's no real reason to apply a CCU until the ship is out. Essentially, if you can't use it, I think the only real advantage I can think of at all is the naming thing. Because the sooner you have the ship, you've got naming rights before other people, but that's about it.
I think the only ship I ever really think is worth looking at locking in the CCU is the Endeavour. And that's because the two loaner ships of the Endeavour are actually worth more than the Endeavour itself. And it's Got to remember which bit.
I think
Starfarer and
the only thing I'd add to that, it's obviously personal taste too, because you'd want to like the loaners, so to speak, as well. But yeah, you're right. It's I believe it's Cutlass Red and
if you know you want the chip.
Agrid. What are the loaners? It's a Cutlass Red and something else.
Cutlass Red and a Starfarer for the Endeavour.
Yeah.
And but between them, they're worth more than $350. So, but that's about the only ship I kind of consider, because you get gameplay of two ships that have different branches, and you got more value than the ships. But then that's only valid if you know I want an Endeavour. If you've just got the Endeavour sitting there just in case, then you don't apply it. But if you know, yeah, I 100% want an Endeavour, then that's probably the one ship that's worth applying, because it's still so cheap and comparative to the other ships. And if you've got CCUs, you've probably got it for cheaper than the concept price anyway. So.
All right, so we're down to probably less than 10 questions now. So if you want to get some more questions in, please do so. Otherwise, we're going to be wrapping up very short. There's going to be a very short stream. We haven't even hit the hour mark yet, and we are getting down to only a few questions. So if you've got some more, get them in, please.
Yep.
Algared, you want to do the next one, please?
Pencagride. Do you think the Medivac Ursa is a redundant ground vehicle like the others when it gets released at Invictus?
I always think back to when anyone says things about vehicles being kind of crappy. On paper, that seems the case, but then I always remember the Constellation, what was it called, the CitizenCon with the Constellation, and they couldn't land in that particular area, and they had to kind of drive in.
They had to land at the outpost and drive.
And that's more prevalent now when you start to think of caves and things like that, and then you start to think of cities and limits and going into underground bunkers and stuff like that. So no, I don't think it is redundant. I think they've now got a very clear case for there are certain, there's a place for everything. And
even just flying around Hurston at times, if you get caught in those storms can be buffeting your ship quite heavily. So,
but you can also see it in the Galaxy, like flying in, and the Galaxy lands, drops off the Ursa. The Ursa's got to go all the way in, pick them up, come all the way back. Like, you're not going to get a Galaxy into smaller places, but it all of a sudden gives the utility of a much smaller vehicle to something the size of the Galaxy.
Now, and what you might be picking up is we usually say they're not worth buying. Because they're just not worth buying cash for because they're so cheap in game.
Yeah. And I still stand by that. But it's worth owning in game, 100%. So again, the question was, do you think the Medical Ursa is redundant ground vehicle? No, I don't think it's redundant. I think it's not worth buying. That's two completely different things.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of people often hear us say, "This is rubbish. Don't buy it." Fighters, they're rubbish. Don't buy them. No, it's often we don't think this is good value for your money, and that's a different category and reasoning for not buying a ship.
I think that's what people hear. They almost hear what they want to hear and dismiss what we're actually trying to say, or they don't take the time to fully take in what we're saying. And so you get these people going, "Oh, that's crazy. I really like this ship. What are you talking about?" And yeah, you can like it. Like, again, I can totally see. I like a lot of the ground vehicles, but I don't buy them because they're too expensive for what they are. They're not good value.
I could see an Ursa medical vehicle. Certainly if it's the same as a C8R and its capabilities, it will be used it will be put in the back of ships when people do bunker missions. It'll be a type of vehicle you can move up to a bunker, using exactly the same way as those medical ships. So it would actually give medical to any ship. It could put a
I'm just thinking the Connie across the board. Look what it adds to all those Connies straight off the bat, and then we know it fits inside a Corsair, we know it fits inside an MSR, and on. You are not wrong in any way.
So that automatically gives those ships a medical facilities, and that's the big bonus of it.
But that's
So
that's
is it a
any
redundant vehicle? No,
that's
it's probably
that's any ground vehicle, no matter what it's going to be. It's going to,
yep,
a repair vehicle, whatever.
yep.
Like what we saw with people putting the rocks in the back of cutlasses and stuff like that. So whatever that vehicle is, it allows you to generally change or add to what you're doing, and that's the appeal of those generalistic ships. Their modules, in a weird term of phrase, will probably be vehicles, so to speak.
So is it a redundant vehicle? Again, as Execute, no, it's not a redundant vehicle, but will it be one that's worth having? Given that the base Earth is $50, the Lynx was what, 55. You're easily looking at 55, 60 for a medical, and that's that bare minimum, I reckon. So, and then at that point, you're going, well, is a vehicle better than two Auroras, and at that point, you start to go, maybe, but are they redundant? No. Broken AI says, if we only have a small ship with real money and buy a big one with Alpha UEC, what will happen with our persistent hangars as we are assigned the bigger ones for the ship? Would all our changes just be auto-stored? Good question, don't know.
We only have a small ship with real money and buy a big one with Alpha UEC. What will happen with our persistent hangars when we assign the bigger one? Yes. So what he's talking about is you will be assigned the hangar to the biggest ship that you own.
Yep. And so if you've got your permanently owned hangar and you've got a small ship, initially it's a small hangar.
Yeah. So what the reason for this is pretty obvious if you think about it, is if you're going to go to the trouble of setting up your entire hangar and then all of a sudden the ship, goes smaller, whatever you've set it up to is what the hangar will be.
Yep. Now that becomes a problem if you got small ship and then you grow, you suddenly have a large ship, because that means your home hangar should be a large hangar. So that asks the question, and we don't really know how we're going to deal with it because I
think that's how they would deal with it. Whatever you set it up to, and whatever it was last saved at, even if you get rid of that large ship, the hangar would stay that size because that's what you set it up for. I think that's how they would do it. It'll be based on whatever you set it up as, so to speak.
You've got your small ship though, because I think you're missing the point. You've got a small ship. You set up your hangar. You got a small hangar to start with. You set up your hangar. You then buy a large shipping game, so a bigger shipping game with Alpha UEC. What happens to my hangar? Does it grow in size?
So again, if you think about how it's modules, they would just expand out. I'm thinking the other way. If you have a large one that goes back to the small
module system. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm thinking if you've set it up to a large and all of a sudden you lose the large ship and it goes back to a small, they're not just going to shrink you and delete the things that you set up.
The hangar you had. So I think part of it is we don't know how they're going to work that. At the moment, they're just working those hangars based on what we own in our account, is my understanding. How they're going to work it elsewhere, I don't know. I can't tell you.
Shinobi Trip, thank you for the subscription on Twitch with the Prime. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's a good question. A good question to raise with CIG. I don't think it's one they've fully dealt with yet. And at the moment, hangars are only tier 0. So expect changes to be coming with that as time goes on. But I think initially it's just going to be what we've got in our accounts is how they work it.
Unless they bring up something simple and say, warning, get rid of this ship and your thing's gonna shrink or increase or blah blah blah. But I'd imagine if you kind of think of a small hangar going large, you've essentially got, so look at it this way, Algared. If you're on the diagonal, if I want to now go from a small to a large, it's still the same 4 walls. They just redistribute what you had to those 2 portions, and then you've got new areas to add stuff. So on the other 2 diagonals as an example. But going the other way, that don't work because you lose things. That's why I was going the other way.
Yeah, no, and I've got no doubt. Like if they base it off what we own in our accounts, it's just going to be the largest ship we own.
Yeah.
How they do it when we buy ships with Alpha UEC, I don't think that's part of the initial release of hangars. That'll come later.
Warring Pro, thank you for the subscription with the Prime on Twitch. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Artemis, sorry, let's have a look. Yeah, Artemis goes into the question, I think, talking about the Valk, or talking about the Jav, and do you think a Valk would fit? Again,
Yep.
Valkyrie was the ship, I think.
That's probably why I brought it up, because I'm pretty sure I saw someone talking about it in chat. But yeah, potentially it could be. But again, let's wait till we get our hands on the actual ship before we go to Crazy Town.
Yeah.
Not too long to wait now, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think a Valk had the hoplite, is it? Is that right?
Sorry?
The Valkyrie does have a hoplite, yeah?
The Valkyrie does have a hoplite. The hoplite and the
hoplite was...
I'm trying to get where you're going with the hoplite and the
Well,
Valkyrie.
if they're asking if a Valkyrie would fit in a Javelin, the Valkyrie hoplite was kind of built as a replacement to the Redeemer fitting in a Javelin. I understood, because they needed it for squadron, and
you
the
took
Redeemer didn't work,
yeah, I think you're getting your names mixed up, but that's fine. So a hoplite is a variant of the Vanguard, and then the Valkyrie is a completely separate ship. So yeah,
okay,
but they would both fit. Potentially. Yeah,
I was getting the ship mixed up.
It's all good. It's all good. I got what you meant eventually, but yeah, it's all good.
That's what I was asking, was a hoplite with a Valkyrie.
Yeah. It's fine. That they would both fit technically in that thing. Again, we just have to wait and see, because we are not unsure. But again, that's why I went through for the length thing rather than the metrics. So yeah.
Yeah, we just don't know with the Jav. We just got to wait.
Yeah.
Chris Dayan says, will the Hornet Ghost detection range be nerfed from 1.8 kilometers to 5 kilometer minimum weapon range when weapon range is implemented? If not, it can kill everyone out of detection range.
I'd probably say the tracker's probably... did he say the Ghost or the tracker? I missed the...
You said the Ghost?
Yeah, the Ghost is probably going to get nerfed a fair bit because it's stealth. But I'd imagine the tracker would be the opposite, wouldn't it? The tracker would have a bigger range because of the searchability.
The tracker will have a bigger range, but it'll also glow like a beacon when it's using it.
Yeah. And the Ghost would be kind of slightly underpowered weapons, but a much harder to detect type thing.
So it'll be able to get closer, but then...
weaker engines and stuff like that too. But like, again... You're kind of silent running. You're trying not to be detected, but the gun. Then again, the guns could be completely the same. You're just not firing them. So again, it's how they choose to set it up and balance.
I imagine the guns would probably be the same, and I'd have to go back and have a look at the Ghost. But I think it's more like you found with the power plant on the FHC. The F7C Mark II. The low power plant only gave you 14 shots, whereas you went up power plant, you had more shots. And so I think that's how you balance it. The power plant in a stealth gives less power out, but it's giving less a signal, but you're getting less.
You could also switch your components around. So if that's the only ship you've got at the time, you can chuck a military component in it, but as you said, you're going to light up like crazy compared to whether if you put a stealth one in it or whatever. Again, we don't really fully have components working at 100% yet, and stealth is not something that we've really seen. Again, we need to kind of wait until scanning comes in. Like, scanning is a really... I would put it up there with cargo as a generalist of something that every ship is going to have at some point. Detecting other ships. We are really in our infancy when it comes to this stuff. We've only got the what they've told us, and we don't have enough to hang ourselves with. Well, we've got enough to hang ourselves with. That's about it, isn't it? We don't have
much. We've got enough to hang ourselves, but not enough to be accurate.
Yeah, that's it.
Broken Eye has another question. What's the smallest ship you think a medical Ursa will fit? I think the same. Any ship that can take an Ursa.
It'd be any ship that can take a medium-sized vehicle.
Yeah.
So I believe it's I think it'd be there's only three sizes, so it'd be like a V2 slot. So So
if you get a regular Ursa in your vehicle, then a medical Ursa would fit.
So,
It's basically the easy way to answer
yeah,
that.
there's not many medium vehicles actually. It's kind of surprising. I think you got the G12 and the Ursa, and that's really it. They're either large or small at the moment. They're not medium. There's not many of them,
No.
which is interesting.
Carsten Christensen says, guys, do you think the Ursa Medical is close? I'd be happy if it was.
Someone's saying they whispered me, but I cannot see any whispers. Apologies. So I don't know where you whispered me, Astro Otter. I cannot see any whispers, mate. So apologies.
It's you just go to our Discord and send him an IM.
Yeah, send me on Discord. I'm more likely to get it on Discord. If you're trying to whisper me via Twitch,
whispering any other way, we've probably missed it.
Yep.
Broken AI has another question. He says, or they say, I have seen lots of Star Citizen real-world trade ads on YouTube lately. Yes, have I. How will CIG combat RMT in the future?
Hang on, I missed that question. So you answer it, and I'll
read. Well, I'm not really sure what RMT is, so how are they combat?
I've seen lots of real Star Citizen trade ads on YouTube lately. I know that's not the right one. Who was the question by?
Broken AI.
I have seen. Is that the one? I have seen lots of SC real world trade ads. Real world trade. Oh, so I think he means like. Trading. Okay, I thought he meant like actual just ads for Star Citizen on YouTube.
Yeah, I got to admit, when I was first reading it, that's what I thought. Actual ads for Star Citizen, that's what I've seen lots of on YouTube lately. I haven't seen any ads from, say, a grey marketeer trying to sell ships on YouTube.
So his update is RMT stands for real market trade. I don't think you can ever fully stamp that stuff out. Again, they've got to pay to do it. I don't know. I really don't know. And it is a problem in other games. But you know, if people are going to pay out the nose for things, they're going to pay out the nose for things. There's nothing you can really. Yeah. Yeah,
the grey market still exists, and
they've not really done anything about that. So yeah, I think their other priorities at the moment is just like, let's make a game and then worry about that shit later. But yeah, down the track, I'm sure, you know, we saw them like they put in anti-cheat and stuff like that. So they've got the basics working. Just let them get the game out first and then worry about that shit later at the moment.
Yeah, I think unless it's selling code and other aspects of the actual game itself, I don't think CIG care at the moment. It's produce the game, get the game running, get the game functioning in the way they want, you know.
Well, if they wanted to be real ass about things, if they wanted to, they can just totally devalue your product. You know, like, at the moment, you know, this ore is really valuable, and in game they just go, and that's worth nothing, and nobody's going to want to buy it. You know, so again, wait until the whole thing's out before we start.
And even ships. Oh, there's ships available. Oh, yeah. It's now available on the store for $10. Oh well, there you go. The value of everything. You know, there goes my fleet value.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. It's just. Okay, so Nova 42. Does the Valkyrie need a rework? If so, how should it be changed?
I don't think it does need a rework. I think it needs some improvements internally. So like some wall structures and stuff like that. I think you and I talked about this a few times, haven't we, Algared, when it first came out?
And over the years we've talked about every ship, but and every ship does need a rework of some form, whether it's gold standard.
They're all going to get it too, aren't they? We know that. So yeah, I think when they come around to work on the Valkyrie, they're going to look at a lot of the suggestions from the community, and we're not the only ones that have done that. I know as a lot of you guys have done the same thing. So yeah, I'll look at just, again, patience. You know, everything comes in and out. It's just the churn of the washing machine, so to speak. You just got to wait till that turn comes around, and again, coming back and redoing them. And I think the first one that we've ever, you know, look at the Retaliator. You know, they're bringing back up the gold pass and how long that's taking. But that is the first big ship that ever went back in game. So, you know, essentially almost been 10 years between drinks for that thing.
And that thing's had a significant issue with how do we solve the the torpedo bay issue.
Mm.
You know, so
Yeah, and it was fairly cluttered and multiple decks, too many crew and stuff like that. So that's going to be a really good test bed to see what their fixes were. You know, like what community feedback did they take on board? What it's gonna be really interesting to, especially because we did an episode on like can we fix it and stuff like that, and to come back
it is.
and see and just I'm
I wouldn't-
pretty sure it's going to be very refreshing to look at and go, yes, okay, so now we can see that they've fixed all these things. You can then safely go, right, well, I can now assume that they're going to fix that across the board.
Yeah, I think so. Warring Pro, the Kit Bash Cutlass type ships that CIG has previously shown off. Do you expect that us to be able to buy them or obtain them in game?
Actually said no, didn't they? They were really just for they were custom things for Squadron 42. So they had Kit Bash Cutlasses and Mustangs and things like that, and that was to kind of show story beats of those pirates that they had to make things work because they don't have manufacturers or access to new things, so that if something breaks down, you just jerry rig it to get it to work.
Yeah.
I think we've also seen one of an Aurora as well that was like really upgunned. So it was like an Aurora with like missiles on it or some shit.
It was draked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I some of them would be nice to have, but yeah, I don't see them doing it. Unless they think there's a market for it.
Maybe down the road, it's something you and I have talked about having Algared, like procedurally generated kind of junker ships, so they all look different, but component wise they're the same type of thing.
Yeah, and I know that's something that Jared would love to see. And I'd like to, I've got to admit, I'd like to see that type of stuff, that ability to play the game your way and have a ship that you like. But if we were going for what thing would I most like to see in game, I'd like to see an alien species. I'd like to see the Tavaran. That's what I'd like to see before I saw that type of stuff. But
yeah,
different people, different strokes.
There's diminishing returns for the amount of work to gameplay, and that's what you got to weigh up. And we've seen that with development already. Is like how much work I put into what I get out and things like that. So, and the further you go along, it becomes more and more that you're putting in almost just as much work, but not getting as much out. So, what do we really get out of procedurally generated junker ships? Because really, it's just a different look. It's not a different function. So it's a tough one. It's a nice to have though. I think.
And if it's extra work but no real gain, then why do it?
Yeah, it's a tough one.
At least initially, anyway.
It's definitely a couple of years, the late stage of a game type thing that you would put in. It's not something you'd put in from up the front because it's just so much other more important things to put in, like gameplay.
Yeah, and gameplay loops and scanning and research, all that stuff. Monster AV has a question. What's your take on the future of bounty hunting? Speaking of gameplay, will we end up needing to board ships to capture people, or will that be the bonus for extra money, with ship destruction being the standard?
I think it really depends where your target is. I think it finding them is going to be part of it, but I think also being able to take them down in, let's just take what we've already got in game. Someone hiding at Grimhex. Are you going to be able to go into that because it is going to be a cat and mouse thing. They're going to want to hide from you. They're going to want to not be caught. They're going to try and go to safe spots of rescue. Do you have to go on foot and chase them? Are they on a massive Kraken, and so you've just got to leave them because they're covered by their mates? And again, that is a part of it, and bounties will go up because that person is just harder and harder to catch. That is, you're essentially, it is a part of that emergent gameplay. And again, like that's just a very complicated subject to get into because it's very it's a you pull a piece of string and it becomes
And it ties into the whole area, like even with the example of Grimhex, there are ways you can sneak into Grimhex.
Yep.
They've talked about putting those into areas like Hurston. There will be ways to sneak into Hurston. There will be ways to sneak into areas of Artcore, and there'll be ways to do that in.
And the inverse, do you have to smuggle them out once you have them? Things like that as well, you know. So yeah, that's
so, yeah. I think that type of stuff's coming.
Yeah.
I think it'll also depend on the contract. If a contract says apprehend alive, then you kill them or blow up the ship. Well, you ain't apprehending them alive. You've failed your contract. If it's alive or dead, then it doesn't matter. But
I think eventually, though, yes, like to answer his question specifically to boarding ships, yeah, that will be a part of it in some cases, you know. But again, are you boarding a Pisces or are you boarding a Galaxy? Like they're two very different scenarios. Like they talked about mercenaries early on in the early days. Like you won't be bounty hunting alone. So let's take the Galaxy approach. You would have to go in and essentially board, check, clear. You know, you're talking what, four to 8 people minimum to try and clear out a Galaxy. You know, you're probably not just going to have one ship. You're going to probably have, you know, one that docks and then one that, you know, again, you're not going.
I'm doing Overwatch, and
that's what I'm trying to get to is bounty hunting starts out in an Avenger. And then it quickly goes up. That's why those bigger ships essentially become bigger combat vessels, because and things like where you and I have talked about where a Polaris is a bounty hunting ship. That's why, because you're getting into bigger and bigger ships that these people are hiding on. You're going to need bigger and bigger ships to go toe to toe with them. If they're hiding on a Polaris, you're going to have to take something equivalency to bring them down. You know, you're going to have something to counter the torpedoes. You're gonna have to have something to lock the ship down so it can't warp out. You start to play on this, and the more bigger that bounty, that's why bigger groups are going to get involved, because it actually becomes, well, okay, this guy's got such a big bounty, we can't not try and go after him because it's going to be such a huge payday. You know, you'll get people that'll actually infiltrate and probably sabotage and shut his ship down internally as well, Algared, wouldn't you? You know, so
I imagine it. And then you've got the issue of you're a criminal. You're on my ship. But I'm not a criminal, and I don't necessarily know you're a criminal. You know, if you've hidden it, or you've got a bounty on your head. I don't know you've got a bounty on your head from crims.
And then
attack my ship,
and look at all
the whole nuance of.
Yeah, that guy on your ship is a criminal. Please pull over. Do you pull over, or does he pull a gun on you? No, get the hell out of here. You know, there's emergent gameplay there as well. Yeah. So again, you can see we're pulling at threads here, but you can see very quickly it's spiraling out of control. So I think it will slow.
And if I don't pull over, and if I'm pulled up, you know, if you're on my ship and I'm pulled over by cops, and you know, if they say pull over and I don't pull over, does that mean I now get a crime stat because I'm aiding and abetting a criminal?
So what I'm trying to get at here is this is why we do not have full details of bounty hunting, because it is a can of worms, and there is just so many places. You can see very quickly how it cross-pollinates with many other gameplays. But that's why we don't have super dedicated large bounty hunting ships, because they essentially become the other big ships because people are going to be hiding on them and things like that. But we'll see.
Yep.
Next one when you're ready.
Monster AV. With the basic hand repair in game already, do you think they will wait till they have more Maelstrom in game to concept release the repair ship, or why do you think they haven't seen any news on them? Certainly for the Vulcan, I think it's because we don't have drones yet. And the other real repair ship we've got is the Crucible, and it's a massive ship, so I think they're the reasons why we haven't heard anything about them.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm reading a message that I got sent, and it's a wall of text. I'm not going to be able to look at that, Astro. It's too long to read at the moment, sorry. Question was, what is the law? No, what is the basic hand repair already in game? Do you think we'll wait until we have more Maelstrom in-game concepts to release repair ships, or why do you think? Yeah, they've kind of said words to that effect with salvage, have they not? We've got a basic salvage up, but they're waiting for again, it's server meshing. Server meshing's holding up everything.
Yeah. But even with that, they need drones for the Vulcan. That's all the Vulcan uses for repair.
Mm.
The only other repair ship from memory we've really got is the Crucible. That's drones and the Crucible's a massive ship. So
Yeah.
I think they're the factors that go in.
Oh, we lost him, but he's not wrong. Yeah. So Salvage is essentially waiting on Maelstrom as well. So and I think as Algared was alluding to, they are yin
To
and yang.
that. So again,
You're back. Go ahead. Say what you was going to say.
Yeah, pretty much that. As you said, it's that we're waiting on stuff. As I said, the Vulcan uses drones, so we need drone play in before that can be doing repair. The Crucible's using drones and the other stuff, and it's a massive ship. So
I think the positive takeaway about server meshing though is we now know it's possible. For the longest time, we didn't even know it was possible. So now it's just the wait to get it implemented. So, and I'm kind of happy to do so because we can kind of go, all right, we know it's going to work now. Just let's get it working. And they're already doing Advocacy testing. We heard, 800 plus is what we heard.
Okay.
Which is crazy town.
Hmm.
But yeah, like if that's the benefits we're getting to this early on, I can only imagine, and that's with static servers. What's it going to be like with dynamic? And
I know people are saying, but it's not early on. But when you consider that it was CitizenCon where they went, yes, we've got server meshing working.
Yeah, 6 months, and that's
6 months.
Yeah,
server meshing. That's like
and we're talking about a pretty complicated thing. Like this is not just like it's certain control P to print type of thing. It is there's a lot of moving parts, and you've got to get it all integrated and working together, and it's all got to, as soon as one thing goes wrong, it all crashes, so it's not that simple. So yeah,
this is huge stuff. It is
it is a key component between Star Citizen Squadron 42, and to have that living, breathing world that we all want, you have to have all those core pillars working together and integrated. And I, for one, having waited this long, Algared, I'm quite happy to keep waiting to make sure it's working. Yeah, and I know you are too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we're on the same boat in that way. A lot of old backs seem to be. Yeah, strangely.
And again, now they know it's working. I think we will see, them happy to content to start to talk about more things, because as they know what they're going to be able to do now, they're going to be able to. Again, that's why we're seeing previews for things like creatures and stuff like that, because as that stuff comes in and they're able to put more or use more network bandwidth, we're going to see more and more things come in. So it's not just going to be why we might be seeing 800 players as tests right now. Let's just say, for example, they end up putting in 400. That leaves bandwidth to then have the NPCs start to work a little bit better. Then they can put in creatures. You see where I'm going with this, right? So that whole, but that's almost more like a bandwidth test to see how much they can use. But eventually, we will get up over those 1,000 player marks and stuff. But I want to see some stuff moving around for a change. But we'll see. See where they go. All right, you want to go to the next one?
Yep. So I was actually just doing a bit of searching on internet for this one.
What are you looking for?
Gore-Tex Fog said, "What is the lore behind where the creatures in Stanton come from? Most planets in the system are terraformed. So, are they native species or what?"
I always think back to that little floating gas thing, and that was like a rat. Wasn't that like a little rat that used to just hitchhike on stuff and. Or like rats, I mean. You know how rats sneak on the ship and stuff?
I don't know whether it's hitchhiked or been planted there specifically, because one of the things that little floating gas ball does is it eats waste. And we all know that Hurston has a problem with waste. So I could see it being used in that sense. I'm just looking at whether Hurston was... actually terraformed, and I was seeing if that was actually the case. Wiki says that it was atmospheric composition is practically identical to Earth. It is composed primarily of nitrogen and oxygen, contains trace elements of argon and carbon dioxide. breathable vaccine for humans, unregulated industrial activity has left it toxic. Yep, we know that.
That's what that's what me and Agrid were talking about, by the way. This is the first creature we ever saw in game, so to speak, and it was in a cinematic, and it's like a floating. Do you know what it reminds me of, Agrid? Is Kang from Ninja Turtles. It's a floating version of Kang. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, so that thing's kind of filled with hydrogen as well, so you shoot it, it blows up.
Yeah.
Nasty thing to have around, but that feeds on waste. If you could harvest those, imagine how much you could. I wonder if you could use them to refuel your ship.
Imagine if you could like all the gameplay that offers those. So you sick them on enemies somehow. Like you remember those little squishy balls in Half-Life you'd throw and the bugs would go after things. Something like that where they go after the enemy and then you shoot them so they detonate and they kill the enemy. That'd be kind of cool gameplay actually. But yeah, interesting. Anyway,
but I understand from at least Stanton. If Stanton was supposed to be a super Earth, it was, or an Earth type planet. It was in the green zone. I can't recall whether it was terraformed. It was one of the things I was looking for. But we do know before it was sold to Hurston Dynamics, there were people already living on Stanton. So the Stanton system had been a military outpost on Crusader.
That's one of your answers to one of the earlier questions too. Like, why are they not going to be abundant with life? There you go. They're all introduced species.
So
yeah.
So it could be introduced species because they've been terraformed. If it's not terraformed, it could be native species. But all the industrial work on Hurston has kind of wrecking the planet.
So you could have any creature. So like say that cat thing. It was some rich guy's cat, and he had a bunch of them, and they got out, and then also they started breeding in the wild or whatever. And
now Australian feral cats.
Oh, I'm thinking about foxes too. That's happened here. The cane toad, the European wasp. Like it's happened several times here in Australia where things have got out of been introduced and just got out of hand. So yeah, we can take real world examples essentially to answer this. But it does. That's a really that explains why they're in limited numbers. That's a really great answer. They're all introduced essentially because these planets are terraformed. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, basically it's undergone some limited terraforming. And have flora and fauna with divergent ecologies. Is basically all I can gather. Yeah, so I'll have to do a bit more search on that, but my understanding is that they could. Yeah, we don't know. Like you just said, they're the first images of animals we've seen on well, apart from the cattle in the live stream at the end of last year. These are the first animals we're seeing images of. They look like they're on Stanton. Your guess is as good as ours. But it's a sign of things to come because they said, I remember at CitizenCon when they said, basically everything you see here is going to be out within the next 12 months. And we thought, but animals, they haven't done any. Well, looks like we're getting animals now. So, surprise. I think that was Jake's response when that was posted on Twitter. I think very apt. Surprise. So, yeah.
Right. Gore-Tex Foz says, what?
Next one.
Next one. Fat Gus says, in your opinion, which ship most deserves a gold standard pass? Which features do you want to improve and how? Oh, I don't think any ship is more deserving than another. I just think it's
That's really asking, what is your favorite ship and why do you like it?
Well, I think in a weird way, the way they're doing it is the right way to do it because they're doing it from a Squadron 42 perspective. We've got to have that thing tip top ready to go. So it's obviously why the Retaliator's kind of getting done because it's in, it's probably why we haven't seen the Starfarer done because it's only kind of like as a background asset in Squadron. Again, you got to put, once you understand what Squadron is to the company, not as a game, but as a product, you understand very quickly why Squadron 42 is so important. We are using Squadron to fund Star Citizen, essentially. And you can hate this to the cows come home that they've worked on this all this time. But if you look at it from the way they were building the company, if you did not do it in this way, it would not have succeeded. It is, and so Squadron 42 was the smarter, more financial choice rather than.
And that was always the approach. Like, I'm doing Squadron 42 because my goal is the PU.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the start. That, as I understand it, that was the goal from the start. So, yes, it's frustrating, but if you just love a PU and you're not interested in Squadron 42, why are they spending all this time on it? It's because when that game launches and that game's sold and when that game's out.
That said, though,
the PU benefits.
That's said, though, you know, you can pick almost any ship you like. There's so many out there. Like, I always come back to the original 5 type thing from Kickstarter. So, you know, you've got all those oldies but goodies like the Freelancer, the Connie, the Aurora. You know, the Hornet's another one. We're kind of seeing that now. But the one that really kind of, I think that has kind of been reworked earlier and showed the possibilities of those older ships being brought up to speed was the Cutlass, like when they redid that. But like you start to apply those kind of upgrades to, you know, the Connie is going to be amazing when that's done. You can just tell, like, you look at what's on paper to where it's got to get to, and you're like, I can't wait to see that thing when it's done. You know, the Aurora, look, because they've just got all these holdovers because of what they were when they were done. Like, we've got like 5 variants of the Auroras, but none of them need to exist except one. You know,
because originally they were just showing what you could, how you could change your Aurora to suit you. You look at, and the classic example of that classic way to see that is look at the original ad for the Aurora. It's, I want a large container on my LX.
They were essentially trying to show the customization of ships, right? And you see that in other things too, like the Mustang and stuff like that. And you can definitely see they've dialed that back and changed their sales approach. So instead of having 5 Auroras, you know, you got 3 different cutters, but they're a lot different. And again, I think updates to some of those older ones. So again, if you saw the Aurora come out again now and they streamlined it, they'd probably cut it back to 3 variants instead of 5, because literally one of the variants is literally a leather seat. Like that's the whole difference between the variant. It has a whole name change, and all it gets is a leather seat.
No, it's actually got a better missile rack as well.
The Aurora, no, so this is where it gets tricky, because the LN has the missile rack and the leather seat, but there is another one that I think it's the rarest.
The LX has
that one.
They've actually got different missile racks. So the MR has
again, they are all like you've got 5 or 6 variants, and they all cross pollinate, and they again, I think you could subtract them down to 2 or 3, and just little, like, you think of all the changes that have happened over the years. Like, do you think that they would have done that as an actual carry-all box now, or would it have just been an underslung, upside down kind of, you know, like on the Hull C with the metal panels? With it, they would have done it like that now. They wouldn't even bother with a box.
I wouldn't have bothered with the plant.
You know, so
you know, and that wouldn't be on the. You know, that wouldn't be on the Mustang either.
And we're hearing about Chad McKinney talking about bed longing and stuff. Like, is bed longing their thing? So
what are they doing? What are they doing that? And how's that going to impact the game? And
what would you do?
How did that?
Yeah, what do you do with Aurora if it's not a bed? Because that thing is essentially a flying bed. You know, so what does that become? You know, and that you know, beds across the board. But yeah, again, I just come back to the older ships. They're the ones that probably are most deserving because they've been around for so long. But at this point, I don't think there's a single kind of ship in the game that doesn't have some form of issue, because it's just the nature of how the game's being built.
And I find the Aurora is frustrating because there are 5 of them, as you said. Every one of them is different. Every one of them has at one point different hard points, at least on the missile rack. It's frustrating because they're all different, and yet you don't need all 5 of them realistically.
And the gameplay is fundamentally the same on basically all of
and
them.
all,
Yeah.
and it literally is just showing,
Mm.
going back to showing what you could do with a customization system they had back in the day, or they were envisaging having. And we foolish people just bought every ship they put out as an example of what they could do, and they went, "Why are we doing customization when we can just sell variants?"
Yeah.
That's how it seems to me. You know, like we screwed ourselves.
Yeah.
I
think the other thing is like the Aurora is
apologize.
probably one of the most popular ships in the entire game, because we all know those starter packs are really prevalent. Yeah, and War and Pro says the same thing in Twitch. They're essentially for new players. So yeah.
I'd be interested to see, like with new players coming, because we've now got more. Like originally, it was the Aurora was the base ship, so lots of people had that, and that's why the most popular. But now we've got the Aurora, the Mustang, the Cutter, the starter packs, and it'd be interesting to see which of those ships is now getting the bulk of the sales, or whether it's still holding true. And I have a feeling that's probably not holding true as well.
I think we would say that the Cutter, they'd sold more of that than any other ship ever. So does that mean the Cutter's now in front of the Aurora?
Yeah, and that might be you may sell bulk more Cutters, but or Auroras over time. But in the recent period, I think you'd find it's outstripping the Aurora, and I think the C8X is also outstripping. You know, Carter and the C8X, I think, are outstripping previous ships. So it'll be interesting to see over time which ones become the most popular starter ship. So
yeah. Again, everything will get a gold standard, and you got to remember, an older a ship is, the more work it needs. You know, so you know, bringing the Cutter up to the gold standard is going to be vastly different to bringing the Aurora up to gold standard, as an example. So yeah. Yeah. Is there any that you'd want to look at specifically, Agrid? Because I think that's kind of what they're asking. They're essentially like if we were to pick one ship, what do we want to see to be brought up to the gold standard? But I just go to the older ones. Yeah, there is too many.
I take the older ships, like the older ships, which I suppose it suits. I do like the Connie's. Connie's one of the older ships, but there's just I don't really care. I like all the ships.
Yeah.
I don't think they're all necessarily good value for money. And woe to be someone like me who's got all those ships that cost more than more money than brains, as the saying goes.
Essentially, the older they are, the bigger the upgrade's going to be, isn't it? So
yeah. My concern, I suppose, my biggest concern is those old ships. Are they going to start doing what we've done with the Hornet? Yes, here's the new Aurora Mark 5. You know, this is our new model of Aurora. It's in 2954, and you've still got your old one, but now you can buy a new one. I really hope they don't do that, but I think that's the way they're going to start going.
On a side note, I hope we do see an advanced starter from RSI this year. So
yeah, look, I'd love to see that, but my concern is that if they start doing that, the new Mark model, and the old ones are redundant, that's basically screwing everyone who backed the game early on. But that's my concern, I suppose, because all those ships you bought early on are now redundant and useless. So I hope that's not the case.
No, I think it'll be fine. All right. Vorda under Slonsoccer. Man, I swear these guys, people want to names just to try and trick us up. Do you think they will be able to? I'm just going to call him Volta. Volta, do you think they'll be able to set up all their hangar items from the back in the day's workshop? The lamp, the fish tank, etc. Yeah, I think we will.
Yep, eventually, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can put dashboard items on your ships now, so. And put stuff in your ships. I fully expect we'll be able to decorate our hangars. That's the idea of those personal hangars, I think.
And not just hangars. Eventually, you know, we know they've talked about flare for your dashboard and stuff like that as well. You know, so and that's been since the Kickstarter days. That stuff.
Well, even now you can go into your ships and you've got an option, like in the current live build, you can actually put stuff on your dashboard.
Yeah,
a bobblehead on my dashboard, or So yes.
100%, and you know, hopefully save that stuff and it persists every time you reclaim or repair whatever you ship. So
But as we said previously, because you did, VITA does specifically say, the old hangar type, Self-Land, Air Review, Revel and York, VHF.
That's the next question.
Oh, so it is. Okay. My apologies. I'm skipping to that next question. So
yeah, well, go ahead, read it.
But the next question was, are the old hangar types, Self-Land, Air Review, Revel and York, VHF, are they obsolete or will they be implemented later? And as we were saying last week, and as we think that they're using the Air Review as the tier 0 to go and work on those. So it's like they're all manufacturers. They're not different types of the same hangar. They are Self-Land is a company. Air Review is a company. Revel and York is a company.
I think that's our hope, but it's more than likely makes the most sense.
Well, even STAR-JM said that. I think Jake was talking about that, I think, in our Discord the other week, and someone was asking that. He said they're different companies. And so our thought process, is, even before I even saw Jake say that, was they're working on the family of hangars for Air Review. And once they've got that worked out and sorted, then they'll go back and they'll do Self-Land, or they'll do Revel and York, or do the VHF.
Yeah, and we did talk too about
the VFG, sorry, not VHF.
We did talk about 2 different landing zones probably favour different manufacturers as well. So yeah, you might find bigger ones have all of them, and then smaller ones only have 1 or 2 of the others. So we'll see. Again, it's all.
Yeah, I don't think they're obsolete. I think they will be bringing them in later, but we'll have to wait and see.
And we even talked about more in the future, didn't we, as well? So.
Yeah, well, they're just manufacturers. They're just the 4 manufacturers we've seen. Why can't we see an
alien one as an example?
Happy Hangars, Old Owl's Happy Hangars. There you go. That's a new manufacturing company. Boom. What style do they have?
Comes with free clown car.
Yeah, and girls, I was expecting you to say, So
leopard skin print on the ceiling.
Leopard skin print.
Mirrors on the floor.
Lighting, all that type of stuff, Ghastly, horrible decor.
Yes.
Purple disco ball, because, Paul wants a disco, so obviously I'd have to have that.
All right. Aurelius Indominus says, with the new hangars, will this mean Algared loses 100 plus hangars?
Well, I need 100 plus hangars, probably.
No, not really, because you can spawn 1 ship at a time. It just essentially means your hangar will be the biggest hangar.
My hangar will be as big as it'll be a capital hangar, because I've got capital ships.
Yeah. And mine will be no difference, and I'm sure a lot of older veteran.
I think most of us will have the largest hangar, because that's what we've got in our account.
Yep.
And g'day, Ravenfort. Since you said g'day. Hi. Not that anyone else who said hi, I just saw that one, so.
Yes, picking on you. Yes.
Yeah, just picking on you because I just saw it.
Yeah. Right.
Socially confused.
Wait, hang on real quick. We're down to about 8 or 9 questions. So if you want to get some more questions in, we're a bit over halfway through. So yeah, if you want to get some more questions in, feel free. So yeah, Algared,
no, if you want us to answer a question, ask whatever you like. Whether we can answer is another thing, but hey, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
We'll talk anything if you like. Socially confused says, is there a hangar size guide? I'd like to know what hangar size I will get. Can't seem to find one.
There isn't one officially. That's the problem. And that's why I had that image from before. So, yeah, if you tell us what ship you've got, we can roughly tell you what to expect.
Basically, the biggest ship you've got is that's going to be the size they make your home hangar to be. So, interesting one would be if they make your home hangar, like you've got a small ship on your on your account, and then you buy a bigger ship on your home account. When it's searching for your home hangar, it's going to say, oh, it needs this hangar. So if you already set it up, so it comes back to that question you were raising before. They'll just
they did say at the location though. So if you only have a small ship at that place, they're just going to give you a small hangar. So yeah, but again, there's an advantage to that, because if you've only got a small hangar, you'll only be paying for small hangars. If you've got a large hangar, you're paying for a large hangar. So there's obviously a price difference there as well. So there's an advantage to only having a small.
That'll be the indication as well. Yeah. But for the home hangar, for that home base hangar, based off the ships you got in your account, adding a large ship to your account is going to change that. So how they do that is another thing. And I know you talked about how you think they'd do it, but which I think makes the most sense. But we'll have to wait and see. Next.
All right. Before you go to, hang on. Before you go to the next one, let's have a quick look at this because I wanted to do this once a week if we can. So I'll do it while I'm remembering. So this is where the GoFundMe's up to this week for our Citizen Con trip. So we've had a few more people donate. So we're up to 1,683. So we're chugging along now. We're getting towards that quarter point.
Inching towards the goal of being able to, I think it'd be really good to be able to get the extra equipment that we want to be able to set up that portable studio, mainly to enable us to do quality content. But it does look more and more like we are going to work, not going for fun.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, just want to give a quick update. So that's where we're at that. All right, Algared, next question.
Citizen Scott says, looking at the hover bike tees, the forward mount looks like utility, not a weapon. Maybe tractor, repair, mining, or something else.
It could be multiple things, couldn't it?
Yeah, could be.
It's hard to tell. It could be a gun. It could be a tractor beam. I've had multiple people say the same thing. Again, it really comes down to what they want to look at. But I will come back to a lore reason of all things. It's Mirai. It's high performance, and you look at the other ones that they've got. They've essentially got combat and racing. That is their real kind of bread and butter. And if you kind of really look at it, what does Mirai do? It is MISC that gives them the racing and the combat. That's why Mirai exists. It is literally giving MISC the extra things that it was missing, essentially, right? So when you break it down, I don't think it will be utility, because I would chuck utility under MISC. Would you not, Algared?
Yeah. Yeah, I expect that Mirai will also be where we see a lot more Xi'an tech come in, because that's one of the things that ties with that. Enables MISC to leverage the Xi'an tech. So I was reading lore the other day, and I think it was in the lore Q&A, and someone said, why don't we see more what's happened with that treaty with the Xi'an with MISC? Why? And they said, well, the Freelance was the first ship they did, but they kind of tried to not put in as much Xi'an tech because they weren't sure how it was going to go, because it was very early. Now that it's kind of accepted, they've branched off Mirai, where they can do their AI, they can do their high performance stuff and put a lot more of that Xi'an tech in there. So I think that's where we'll start seeing more of that Xi'an tech.
On a lore note, it's really obvious that they want to expand the cool factor of MISC to go into ships that were outside that industrial tag. And that's where that's come from.
And that's why that works. So So I think that bike, I think it fits the way we were talking before. There's two variants. One's going to be military, one's going to be racing. What that means in terms of the equipment on the bikes, who knows?
Just to throw a thought experiment out there, if this was an Argo bike, I'd be throwing out utility left, right, and center. Right? And quite honestly, I can see a need for an Argo hover thing. Like I don't know about you, Algared, but like, a little cargo hauler that runs around almost like the mule. I can see that as well, and with a tractor beam, I like a direct competitor to the mule, literally.
Yeah. I would have seen that. Like, I think when the mule came out, I was thinking it would have been nice to see that as a Argo, because that kind of seems to fit their wheelhouse more than anyone else. They are the stevedores of Star Citizen. That's their bread and butter. That's their key goal. That's my understanding, anyway. So, okay. Trip Squared Greenworks says, do you think the jukebox sold in a subscriber store will be able to be mounted in your hangar, or is it for a large ship instead? No, it used to be mounted in the hangar.
Yeah, it was a hangar.
Once upon a time, it even worked.
Yeah, I don't know from a legal perspective whether it's going to be able to play MP3s anymore, because that's like copyright issues and stuff like that. But maybe it can hook up to Spotify or Twitch or something, or YouTube or something like that, maybe in the future. But think the legality's probably changed quite a bit there, but I think it definitely will at least
But
visually appear in your hangar.
I think I'm not sure if I'm back yet, but
You're back.
yep, I'm back. So I think the jukebox, the fact that it was in the hangar, actually circumnavigated that legality anyway, because the hangar was your personal space.
Mm.
So it wasn't being broadcast out into the game in general.
Yeah.
So I think that was one way how I got around it, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it used to be in the
True.
hangar. You used to be able to play MP3s in it, but then it broke.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right there. It would only ever be in your hangar. It's not like for example, if you had that on your ship and you're flying around, that would be very different. And broadcasting it in game, you are right. That is technically separate. Yeah, you could be right.
But as you said, we'll have to wait and see how they work that. But yeah. That's that one done. Arcane Danger says, with personal hangars coming, will items like the media player and jukeboxes work in the same spaces, or will they likely be non-functional at first and functional later? Again, that same question.
Yeah.
Used to work, then they broke.
Yeah.
Same as I think the drink cabinet used to work and then it broke. That drink cabinet was fun. You used to drink drinks and then you get drunk and then you fly on your ship and you were drunk, and pretty weird.
Yeah.
I'm sure you remember that.
Yeah, I remember it very hazy at the time. It was fun. Yeah.
Very hazy indeed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Warring Pro shared an image with your Discord latest episode discussion.
Probably not going to be able to find it. Go ahead, Algared. Go on to the next one.
Okay, that was all the question was. So, Broken AI goes on and says, with a question, with the upcoming creatures, what kind of gameplay can you see coming? Lots of gameplay, hunting, defending, herding. We can see components for medicine, components for manufacture, so lots of different things along that line. What happens when your ship smashes into a flying creature? Maybe your engine dies. Maybe it just bounces off a shield or the armor. I suppose it depends on the ship. Does the creature start attacking your ship? We don't know. They are going to be hard to see, yes. How will the AI even work with the servers before server meshing? Probably they won't work very well. I'm looking forward to the verse being less empty, but I'm also seeing issues myself. Yes, but I think as they get server meshing going, and as we're seeing gameplay shards or gameplay servers where we've got 800 odd people or 350 people or more, as we've said lots of times, the dam is breaking.
Yeah.
We thought it was awesome when we went from 30 people to a server to 100. And the current tests are blowing even 100 out of the water. So
the more and more that network kind of becomes more optimized, the more full of AI and the more lifelike the game will feel. That original plan is 90% AI. We are nowhere near 90%.
Well, the classic thing you just pointed out is it's not even optimized.
Yeah.
I know the first big optimization we saw, or certainly in terms of frame rates and everything else, was they had done something internally for something else, and the side product of them doing this little thing was it just increased the quality of life and the frame rates exponentially, and it was just like, oh, this is just a side issue of what we've done. But they weren't optimizing it to try and get the best out of it. It was just something they did behind the works for their own stuff. Yeah. So.
All right. Again, we're down to 6 questions, so it looks like we had an early. I can get back to bed. It's great. Right. 6 questions to go. Let's go, Ogre.
Yeah, we'll get to 7:30.
Yeah.
Okay, so Broken AI. What do you think is the main point holding others from joining in the Star Citizen universe? There's more to the question, but what do you think is the main point stopping people joining?
I think it's really just different people buying at different risk factors, and I think a lot of people like you and I wanted it because it was a dream, right? And then you get people at the other end where it's like, I am not going to buy in unless there's a certainty.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah,
a
well,
lot of the people left are the like, I'm not buying into this till I know it's a real thing. So it's like it's on a shelf or whatever, or I can buy it and play it straight away.
yeah. Yeah, I know for me it was I knew what Chris Roberts did with games.
Yep.
And I know how far he pushed the envelope as far as it could. So I was on board for that.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to take a time. I didn't realize it was going to take so long, but I'm still happy with that because I knew what I knew what I was in for.
I think we would both agree it went above and beyond our projections.
Oh, yeah, even more so.
Yeah.
So Broken IA's question went on and said, my personal opinion is that server requirements and the server performance issues. I have a lot of friends that want to play but can't because either system can't really run. Either their system can't really run or they don't want to play because the server FPS causing AI issues, etc.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's probably an issue that a lot of people have.
It's in development. It's not optimized, as you said earlier. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, you actually said that earlier. I just drew attention to it.
Well, I'm tired. Sorry, but you know what I mean. Like people don't want to deal with bugs. They want an end product. They don't want to develop the game. They just want to play the game. So
yeah.
Kind of like people that get into early access and people that don't buy it until it hits 1.0 type of thing and it releases. And then,
yeah.
Look at Baldur's Gate. There were people playing Baldur's Gate for 2 years before it officially came out. Then it came out and it's Game of the Year.
Yeah. And I see the same with Star Citizen. Like even when I can remember Arena Commander came out and I was thinking, this is as good as most AAA games. What was it? There was a game that was basically an Arena Commander match. And that was all the game was. It was just your ships going out fighting each other and you were the ship effectively. Arena Commander was pretty much that, but it had different scenarios. And that was pretty broken compared to where CIG wanted to be. And that was the very first thing we saw with gameplay. What we've got now, I think, is immensely better than most games that are put out as AAA wonderful games. So, yeah, different people want different things or expect different things before they'll get on board. And I think part of it is, as you said, broken AI, the fact that server meshing or the fact they want it perfect or whatever, and things get raised as well. So,
right. Dave Wilson says, with the possible release of the Polaris, what kind of costs will be associated logistically, financially, and support-wise for a typical weekday mission? That's kind of a bit like initially not much, but down the track, yeah, a lot more. That's a over time question. That's a multifaceted question there. It's another pulling thread question. I don't know how.
It's certainly a question too that does raise issues.
Yeah, because like, are you talking like as soon as it comes out? Or are you talking like in final game? That's the other, like that's kind of how I'm looking at that question because he doesn't quite elaborate. Yeah.
Like it doesn't have the big massive weapons that other ships have. So it doesn't have size 7 guns like an Ares or a Polaris, a Perseus or a Nautilus. It's got size 5s, but it's got torpedoes and missiles. So one logistical aspect and financial you'd need is the fact to be able to resupply your missiles because that's going to be your main teeth.
Yeah, you're going to want to it's essentially a strike craft. You want to like zip in, hit something, and get out. Like it's an in and out type of thing, and it punches up, but it's not hanging around to fight. It's just getting in, destroying, and getting out.
Straight up logistics that I can think of.
Yeah.
Minimum crew is 6.
Yeah.
So you want 6 buds with want 5 buds with you, or to get the most out of it. How much you can get by without that minimum crew, don't know. But I think it's certainly going to be more than 1. Bit like the Perseus. Perseus has a minimum crew of 6. How far you can get by with less than that, I don't know.
Those again, we talked about it having the brig and a bit of bounty hunting and stuff like that. I think a lot of what I remember talking about in the early days when we talked about the Polaris was just that it was such a big deterrent it's going to be. You know, those 28 massive torpedoes, you are not going to want to dance with that thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary. Like you know, you're going to want to kind of do as you're told or be on your best behavior if
Yeah.
that thing's around, so to speak, because they're not going to, you know, if you're going to risk losing that entire ship, you can be told that they're going to be firing everything at you to try and get out of that situation, no matter cost be
it's not
damned,
just,
you know.
and it doesn't just have torpedoes, it's got size 3 missiles as well, and it's got size 5 guns, which are also good against taking bigger ships out, along with a swag of smaller weapons for anti-fighter defense, and then you've got your hangar. So it does have a lot of gameplay options. But is it necessarily your frontline fighter? Probably not. But it's certainly got a brig and a medical bay, and so it does have a lot going for it. And it is our first real capital ship of a military base. So
I think
logistically, yeah, it's going to have a lot.
I think that's probably the best way to put it. It's our first combat capable combat capital. Would that cover it? I think that covers it. Combat capital. Because you know, 890 Jump and Reclaimer, they're technically capitals as well, but they cut from
For
a different cloth.
roles, different purposes.
Yeah. All right.
It would certainly do a if you put an 890 Jump up against a Polaris and weren't using torpedoes but just normal weapons, the Polaris should ace the 890 Jump without too much trouble.
All right, Aussie Veteran says, do you think there will be an RSI capital ship since they are building the RSI ships, not including the Orion? Yeah, I kind of do include the Orion, believe it or not. It's absolutely huge. It's one of the biggest ships in the game. It's almost Javelin-esque in size. I don't think there is a need for another one from RSI.
No.
That said, if I was going to pick any other manufacturer because of its lore, yeah, RSI could have a second one because they're an older manufacturer.
Well, if we're talking ships that are in game, not necessarily ships we buy, I think it's the Bengal is RSI.
Yep.
Then you've got the Orion, which is RSI, which we can buy. I think the Polaris is RSI. The Perseus is RSI.
Yeah. I think what he's getting at right here, and that's what
I'm
reading.
More?
What I'm reading from the question is he's essentially going those large capitals, the big capitals. You'd expect every. I think he's hinting at what we've said previously about every
Javelin.
Let me finish. Every major manufacturer should have a really big, one really big capital, kind of like the Consolidated Outlet and then the Pioneer, the Kraken, the Idris, and the Javelin, that type of thing. Again, I think it comes down to gameplay roles, and the other thing I'm noticing is we've still got a few to come, you know, like other manufacturers. Like, are we going to get a capital refinery, as an example? You know, who would that be by? Again, it's where they want to go with gameplay, and I think we've kind of got to let that steer it a little bit now. But for me, the only reason I can think of is a lore thing for RSI to have one because they're an older manufacturer. What that would be, again, look at RSI as a manufacturer. It's probably one of the broadest manufacturers in the entire game because of its age.
And yet, when you really consider, it's probably got less ships than some of the other manufacturers, even though it's the oldest. So,
well, you know, they're probably built to last over
there. Yeah. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Will they have another one besides the Orion? Initially, no, because the idea is one large capital per manufacturer. They've got the Orion that's been sold to us, so I don't think we'll see another one. Could I be wrong? Yeah. Would I be happy if I'm wrong? No. Oh, would I be happy if I'm wrong? No, I wouldn't be happy if I wouldn't be upset. Is what I'm saying. So yeah.
You know, what do they make? You know, Algared, we've got other manufacturers, kind of like an agriculture ship. What if they make the,
RSI farm vehicle.
Yeah, like some kind of massive RSI farm vehicle that's more tailored towards like animals rather than plants and stuff like that. So don't rule anything out. But like, what's to say they don't make an animal-based manufacturer? We just don't know what the game holds, right?
Yep.
And like Agrid said, like certain manufacturers do different styles, and RSI seems to be that they have this one really well-designed product, and they don't really have a need for lots of other variants. And it's like in the real life, like you look at Apple, they tend to make one product really, really well, but then you get a cheaper manufacturer, and they're literally just flinging shit at the wall and see what sticks, right? And I'd say RSI is a bit more like Apple rather than the latter, you know. So
I'll give it.
yeah. So again, we'll see what happens, but yeah, I can't really. It's a bit of a vague question. It's a very hard one to answer for specifically. So yeah. Agri, do you want to do the next one?
Yep. So Raven4 asks a question: do you think they will keep the Vanguard's BUKs, or change to something else with modularity, or like the F7A Mark I kit?
The bucks are just weapons and components at this point. You're just buying them in it. You're buying them out of game rather than buying them in game. That's all they are.
Well, didn't they remove them from the store, so you can't even get them anymore, can you?
You can't buy them anymore, but you can grey market them if you wish. But yeah, essentially they're just weapons and components in advance. So essentially, again, if you have a Sentinel, you'll be able to take that in game, get all the components, a different pod, and swap it over and outfit it to be a little bit like a Harbinger. It's no biggie. Again, it comes along to those lines of earn in game over earn out of game. And for me, bucks just fall into that kind of. If anything, they prove our point, do they not, Algared? Because they themselves have stopped selling them, and showing that they're not worth the value. So yeah,
it kind of backs up often what we say. So yeah. If you've got a question, guys, please add it, because we're down to the last three. So if you'd like us to keep talking,
I'm more than happy to go back to bed. We've got 15 minutes left in the stream, but yeah, if you guys are done, we're done too. I'm going to go have a nice rest.
Yeah.
So
I'll certainly be wanting to rest as well. To make sure I made it today, I was certainly in bed very early last night. I found the other day I stayed up a little later, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll be right. And I was gone. Amazing how a little bit of sickness knocks you for six. And so in ways you don't necessarily realise, it just wears you out. So yeah. Anyway, Asmund Fisson says, do you guys like the 3D overlay that's on the new HUD? It hurts my eyes and makes them hard to read.
I do think it can be harder for certain people to read, but I also think that they will have. We know that they've talked about accessibility options in the past, so whether you can change the color or transparency and stuff like that, I think they'll have accommodations for that, especially in a multiplayer game. Single player, they'll just copy that stuff over. So I think, give it time, guys. Give it time. This is
my biggest frustration with the HUDs at the moment is that on certain ships, the colors just are.
Yeah.
You want to change the colors and you can't, just because they're so hard to see. That's my biggest frustration with them at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. I'm going to do some work in the background, Agrid, if you would be so kind as to continue.
So, second last question at the moment. At this rate, won't even need to close the question HUD off, because we'll run out of questions before you guys, before we get to that point. Meet Your Maker says, only if you call me. What's to stop someone loading a cargo bay full of creatures and unleashing them in a city? Criminal status. But I can see people doing that type of stuff.
Absolutely.
I can see humans. I can see people, capturing animals that are
what's to stop
them, just leave them in a ship.
What's to stop CIG having some kind of security installed that instantly has lasers that come out and shoots all the creatures?
Yep.
Like what's to stop that all, like maybe they're the emergent gameplay interactions that they want, and all the crowd goes wild and starts,
Yeah.
you just
The
don't know.
MP security guards shoot them all and
Yep.
then shoot you because you're a criminal now.
Yep.
I can see people, I could see people, if they think they're going to be attacked for an 890, having some creatures in a room. So, you go storming the room and oh, hang on, oops. There's something in there. Okay. Oh, no. I can see that type of thing. But yeah, nothing to stop people because that's emergent gameplay. I can see people, if you could put the creatures on a planet and the atmosphere is the wrong one for them, so they die straight away. Or they thrive. They're the things that we don't know. We'll have to see. Last question from Citizen Scott. 12 years divided by 2 games equals 6 years per game, which isn't long at all by modern standards. Agree with that analysis or no?
Look at Helldivers 2. It took them 8 years. And I wouldn't say that's half the game of what some other games are going to be. Again, size of team, investment, money, funding. Again, anyone that looks at Star Citizen can tell you the whole problem was getting staff. They went from 8 people to now over 1,100. You don't just go and that's done.
And they really didn't expand their staff beyond that very small base until about 2014 when Aaron's team came on.
Yeah,
that really was, I think, the start of real development where they actually had those teams. And then after that you had the team in Frankfurt startup.
Yeah,
and that again got the ball rolling. But the whole purpose of Next Great Starship was really not to design a shipping game or a ship for the game from the community. The real goal of that was to find game engineers who knew the system, who could manipulate the system that was being used for Star Citizen. So, yeah, I don't think, I don't think the time period is that long at all. Yes, it's been long, 100%. It's been longer than we wanted, or longer than we thought. But they were starting from scratch, and games take time. And usually we don't see a game until it hits
again,
beta.
you've only got to look at Grand Theft Auto 5 and 6. Look how long they've taken, and they had a full-fledged team, full-fledged publisher, and all the funding behind them, and that's taken even longer. And I think you'll be really surprised when you also got to look at the metrics of time and inflation and stuff like that. If they ever release the costs of Grand Theft Auto 6 once that's out, I think you'll be surprised how on par with Star Citizen it actually is, or Squadron, so to speak. I think you'll find that they're very comparable. And again, once it's done and dusted, history will look back at this as like media just going, blowing smoke up people's butts, so to speak, or gaslighting, I think is the official term.
Yeah, so I think I think the assessment's fair. Like 2 games, 2 really good quality. If you're taking what we're seeing in Squadron, or not in Squadron, in our current gameplay as a basis, I think 2 very good games being produced over that 12 years or 10-year period, if you go that they really started in 2014, that's a 5 to 6 year average. That's pretty good. And yeah, so I'd agree, but I think it's only going to get better. And yes, it might take a little longer, but yeah, I think it's a positive thing.
All right, so I think we'll raid off into Paul Algared. I'm having trouble getting YouTube to actually redirect to Paul on YouTube, but I can definitely do it on Twitch. So I'm gonna get Twitch set up to raid over to Paul right now. So he's doing a 24-hour live stream. We don't ever get the chance to raid him anymore, so I thought that would be a good thing. Give him how
if he's doing his 48-hour live stream, that would be a really good thing.
But he's doing 48 hours?
He is doing 48 hours gameplay type live stream, pub crawl type stuff. So yes,
Yeah.
Paul is going to be dead.
Yeah.
Support him and back him
Yeah.
because he works hard.
So let him know I'll be over to harass him in a bit once this is all said and done, and we'll see how he's doing. I'll come over and have a chat with him. So yeah, we'll get that set up now. But yeah, I'm having trouble doing it on the YouTube. The redirect thing is not working today, unfortunately. Well, Arrogant's been watching me fuss with it for the last couple of minutes.
I have. He's been in the background for the last 5 or 10 minutes doing that stuff. That's why he really didn't answer those last 3 questions. He was doing background stuff.
So, I don't know.
But yeah, if he can't get it to transfer to work for YouTube, go across and join him anyway on YouTube and support him. He does work, do a lot of artwork. He is
fellow Inforunner as well, so yeah, good to see.
Yep, he's one of the team. So
yeah,
give him support, give him your love. If you haven't liked, subscribed, and hit our bell, do that. If you haven't liked and subscribed and hit his bell, do that.
Yeah. All right, we'll say goodbye to everyone on Twitch. Sorry, Twitch, say goodbye to YouTube. YouTube, say goodbye to Twitch. Have fun over there. Bye, Twitch. And they're out of here. As for you guys, we will have an episode coming up as well.
Well, we will do the IC today at some point and get that up.
Yeah, we'll get that done. Yeah. So don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and go. Thank you to everyone that went an extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video. And by the way, we have not watched that reaction video yet. We've deliberately left it up. Well, I couldn't watch it yesterday. I could have technically, but yeah, I was in hospital. Anything else, Algared, that you want to think about?
No, I think that's it. I'll try and get in game and play a little bit.
Sorry for the slow stream and a bit of a short stream, but it was good to have a shorter one considering what went down this week. So yeah, thanks for that and thanks for joining us. I have tried multiple times to
Paul
to redirect, but I can't. So they've changed something on YouTube as usual. So yeah.
So manually go across, hunt Paul down, and yes.
All right then.
Ask him what animal he wants to put in his Redeemer.
Yep. All right. He's been Algared.
He's been Execute, and we're out of here. Take care.
See you, citizens. Oh, yeah. All right. Someone said we could link to it. Hang on. Yeah, I'll get you a link. Hold on. Before I close up.
Before you close, give him the link. Good thinking.
Awkward silence.
Thanks for that, formerly Chucks. Good idea.
Yep. All right. There we go. That's in chat.
Right, there's the link.
Yeah.
Take care, guys.
All right.
We're out of here.
Bye-bye.